Good morning and welcome to Rising. We've got a great show for you today. Happy Thursday, and I hope you remembered to bring your umbrella today, Lindsey.
I know. I was wondering with your scooter, it's getting like harder and harder by day.
Yeah, I drove in.
Oh, did you?
Oh, yeah. Well, I can't. It's pouring rain.
Like you actually know how to drive?
I know how to drive. I have a car. I drive very well.
I thought that you didn't
Actually, I'm
Uber.
now. Funny enough, No. Now I'm part of a two-car household because my fiance has a car too. So.
Wow, I'm like really no shade. There's a lot of my New York friends that don't ever drive. They've always taken the train.
I grew up in Michigan. It's the Motor City, baby.
Oh, okay. Well, let me get it together. Coming up on Rising, Senator Josh Hawley has written an op-ed promoting his bill to keep SNAP benefits going during the shutdown. And even Senator Chuck Schumer says Democrats would support it.
Plus, the Pentagon announced that the U.S. has struck yet another alleged drug-carrying boat, this time in the Eastern Pacific.
And President Trump has fired all 6 members of the commission on the Fine Arts Board that he's moving to build his East Wing Ballroom and proposing an arch near the Arlington Memorial Bridge. They're all gone. He's fired them all. Now, Robby, we'll talk about that later, but what's on your radar right now?
Okay, well, the Republicans are winning the shutdown, and even CNN has to admit it. We turn now to my favorite pollster, Harry Enton, who has some shocking news for his colleagues at the network. Take a look.
If anything, it's been helped a little bit. Take a look here, the shift in net popularity versus pre-shutdown. When we're looking at the Republican Party overall, that brand actually up 2 points. That's within the margin of error, but clearly it hasn't dropped. Come over to this side of the screen. Look at the net approval ratings for Republicans in Congress. It's actually up 5 points since pre-shutdown. So what we're seeing here is the Republican brand in Congress has actually improved somewhat compared to where we were pre-shutdown, despite the fact that Republicans control. And that's the math that John Thune and Mike Johnson are looking at.
That's right. GOP poll numbers are actually up. How the Republicans are choosing to handle the shutdown is resonating with voters. And not just their own voters, but also independents. Let's watch a little bit more.
The base for sure. Look at this. The net approval rating up 12 points versus pre-shutdown. But it's not just with the base. It's also with the middle of the electorate. Look at this. Among independents, it's up 8 points as well. So we've got a situation here where Republicans with the shutdown are actually rallying their base, but it's also something that's not hurting them with the folks in the middle. If anything, it's helping them with folks in the middle. And this is the type of math that if you're Republicans, you like to see, right? Because something could rally the base but alienate those in the middle, or something could rally those in the middle but alienate the base. But the truth is, we're not seeing that.
Yes. Republican voters, the MAGA base, they're excited that the party is sticking to its guns, and independents are also rewarding them for it. Well, I think that's very telling. GOP voters do not want feckless establishment leadership to succumb to Democrats' efforts at emotional blackmailing over health care coverage, welfare payments, and federal employee salaries. Because, let's keep in mind, Democrats are asking for everything in the kitchen sink. They want to maintain the health care insurance subsidies that were intended to be temporary COVID measure. Like most temporary government spending programs, they don't end up so temporary, do they? Democrats now expect them to be permanent. And the Democrats were willing to let the government shut down and say, look, voters, look what those mean Republicans are doing to you. They're willing to withhold your paycheck if you're a government employee. They're willing to take away your welfare. Blame them. Well, it's not working. Republican and independent voters know that, at this point, the Democrats own the government shutdown. They could vote to end it anytime. Republicans are ready. But Democratic members of Congress are afraid to go along with this because they fear the anger of their furthest left voters who are demanding that they stand up to the Republicans, even in performative and self-sabotaging ways. Well, they're only hurting themselves because a majority of voters, not everyone clearly, but enough people, are with the GOP on this one. Even CNN's Jake Tapper sounded ever so slightly exasperated with congressional Democrats. Let's watch.
Let me be clear. The administration is choosing to starve American children with money that they already have appropriated.
I'm not applauding their tactics.
By the White House.
Well,
this is a choice by the White House.
This is also, Congresswoman, this is also a choice by Senate Democrats to not vote to open the government. Yes, it is.
He's right. I think plenty of Americans have decided that Democrats own this shutdown now. We'll see how that affects the midterms next year, if at all. Some poll numbers, Lindsey, that got to be bad news for Democrats. If I was Republican seeing that, I'd be like, oh, wow.
Yeah, I would say,
might as well keep up
wow,
with this.
wow. Republicans rallying their own base.
And
cool story, bro.
And independence.
No, okay, fine. Take that with a grain of salt. I also think the shutdown has yet to really affect the mainstream of all voters, right? So right now we know it's affecting DC people, people who work for the government and work outside of DC, people who are now looking at SNAP. That starts November 1st. We're not at that date yet.
Yeah.
And so I think as people start to begin to see themselves not be able to fly around for Thanksgiving because flights are canceled because air traffic controllers literally can't handle the situation without getting paid and rightfully want to take their time off and just leave and say, like they did last time, I'm not coming to work because they don't have to if they're not getting, I mean, they could get fired. If people start to get fired like the president is trying to do but has been blocked from doing and literally lets people go that are furloughed and this keeps on, I don't think that the American public who are Democrats, Republicans, and independent in that pool are going to be so pleased with Republicans at that point
Democrats
when they see how
and
this
Republicans
goes.
are not government workers. Government workers are disproportionately Democrats, 90% of them.
No, that's you're just pulling these poll numbers. I want to see the facts and the figures on that. You're just like smirking and saying Democrats are 90% of workers. Like I'm not accepting
federal
that
employees.
No, I want to know. Well, let's give you an example. I love that you're saying that. So remember when Doge did this? Remember when Doge fired a bunch of federal workers, sent them that memo, Elon Musk? Well, guess what? I interviewed a Republican federal worker.
You found one, huh?
No, I didn't find one. There were several, but I interviewed the one of them that I decided to go talk to, and he voted for President Trump and was confused about how Elon Musk was making that type of decision because as a supporter of President Trump, he thought that it was America first, and he got rave reviews from his boss. Okay, he worked in the Department of Agriculture and was confused about why he's being let go by somebody who wholly did not understand his job, which was Elon Musk. So that's one example and taking us way off track. But I think that we need to remember this is one poll, convenient poll. Now, if we look at another poll that just came out, there's an Economist YouGov poll that came out just yesterday. I thought it was alarming to see that yesterday 57% of the country disapproves of President Trump's job performance so far. 39% approve. That's the lowest poll that he's ever had in his, as far as approval rating, in his whole entire first term. The highs and the lows of it, even during COVID. So right now he has his lowest approval rating. He's sitting on planes talking about everybody's so happy with my behavior. So at the same time that Republicans base, he said that everyone's so happy with his behavior because he's like, well, I mean, they want me to run a third term on the plane. Nobody's calling for that. More than half of the country is unhappy with the way that you're handling the country, particularly the economy. And then looking at this poll and saying that Republicans are pleased with this behavior. Okay, well, it doesn't balance out. The crown lays on President Trump's head, and this poll is telling me that more than half of the country, who the president represents, all of America, not just Republican Americans, he should act presidential in this moment and try to help Congress come to a conclusion. It's not ideal that Harry Enton's saying on there like, oh yeah, Republicans are rallying this tactic of like not coming to a solution. Same way that I'm not rallying Democrats to sit there and hold the line. I'm saying come to the table, so should Republicans. They should not shut down the government endlessly and make this the longest shutdown of our lifetimes. That's not a good thing for anyone.
Well, then Democrats
and I don't think that Republicans should be saying that either.
You saw what that woman said to Jake Tapper, that this is Republicans' fault, but you're the people who won't vote for it unless you get everything in the kitchen sink. You want the sprinkles and the cherry. They're willing to give you the sprinkles. You just can't have the sprinkles.
What sprinkles were they willing to give? They want a clean CR pass. There's not one sprinkle in there. And then they're saying down the line, we're going to have a conversation. Who would trust them realistically that down the line they're going to have a conversation about health care costs? We're now in November. The Affordable Care Act subsidies are about to expire. And so people are watching their health care costs go from $800 in one KFF study, which is an independent health policy research organization, to $1,900.
Scrap Obama.
Okay, but since we can't do that right now, people actually need health insurance. So from $800 to $1,900 is not
They have health insurance. Or just getting rid of a subsidy that was only supposed to be there.
So you don't mind that the same Americans that are vulnerable in our country that are using the Affordable Care Act to begin with
because they couldn't to be emotionally blackmailed.
It's not emotionally blackmailed. It's actually caring about the constituents that you represent.
Then find me something else.
Cut something else, but don't cut health insurance. Don't cut SNAP benefits. These are big things. So Republicans should come to the table and have a dialogue about some of the most important things rather than pass things like a big, beautiful bill that cuts SNAP anyway. Like they're having two conversations that are opposing what they actually do in real time. I like actions more than I like words.
Bring me a scalp. Bring me something to cut and I will.
Well, Elon Musk tried that and it failed. So find yourself somebody who can do the job well.
Because the government's desire to grow and spread is stronger than even the most principled libertarians' resolve to cut and destroy it, which is why sometimes we have to just not be too particular about this and say, sorry, we're cutting welfare, we're cutting health insurance.
No, that's not the place you start, but we'll keep talking about this. Missouri Senator Josh Hawley is introducing a bill to keep SNAP benefits from going away during the government shutdown. Stay tuned, we will keep talking about this. Missouri Senator Josh Hawley writing an op-ed in the New York Times promoting his new bill to prevent more than 40 million Americans from losing their SNAP benefits this weekend.
Hawley says the best solution would be for the government to reopen fully, but in the meantime, he wants to ensure that those who rely on SNAP don't lose access to food assistance. In his op-ed, Hawley writes that the government shutdown has already touched countless lives and not for the better. Key services have been curtailed and hundreds of thousands of federal employees, from air traffic controllers to Capitol police officers, are working without pay, but letting federal food assistance lapse would introduce an entirely new stage of suffering. Congress can still pass legislation during a shutdown, and it should pass my bill to keep SNAP benefits going. Last I checked, members of Congress are still getting paid. Republicans blame Democrats, Democrats blame Republicans, but all of these people have food to spare. One suspects that if senators couldn't buy groceries, the government would never close down again.
Now, Hawley's bill is being backed officially by 10 other Republican senators and 1 Democrat. And Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer said on Wednesday that it would pass overwhelmingly if put on the Senate floor. As it stands now, the Department of Agriculture says SNAP benefits will not be sent out on November 1st because the program has run out of money.
Although Hawley's op-ed appears to be more bipartisan in nature, the senator has been going after the left aggressively online. He writes on X, the Dems are holding hungry Americans hostage because they want to give food and health care to illegals. My message to Democrats is stop punishing the American people, vote to open the government, vote to feed the needy, and vote to pay our military.
Now, some Democrats were not convinced by the messaging in Hawley's op-ed, accusing him of hypocrisy. Pennsylvania Representative Brandon Boyle says, quote, Josh Hawley's op-ed is utter nonsense. Let's not forget he voted for Trump's big ugly law, aka the largest cut to food assistance in American history, stripping SNAP from millions of Americans, including tens of thousands in Missouri. Spare us from the performative compassion. So Josh Hawley is talking kind of out of both sides of his mouth. I did think the op-ed was very poetic and, appropriate for the time. But I also thought for somebody who's sending out these tweets and somebody who did put the big, beautiful bill forward, which the Congressional Budget Office says did cut off SNAP benefits for more than 2.4 million people because it pushed up those requirements to get them, that he's kind of like not that worried about people who get SNAP benefits. So I don't understand this. Putting his name attached to this bill makes him, I guess, on the right side of history to his constituents, that I did something during this shutdown because they're all still getting their paychecks, which a lot of people think is wholly unfair, that Congress is still lining their pockets while people have to suffer elsewhere that work in the government. So I think that stands by itself. But food is not political. I mean, people actually need to eat. We're talking about this as like from a macro level, but there's real people that actually needed that assistance come this Saturday, and they're not going to be able to figure out what their grocery plan is. A lot of people that are veterans, I think there are more than 10 million veterans that use it. And so we need to be aware that there are people that support and fight for our country that we're leaving hanging. And not to mention, most people who are on SNAP do have work or are in between jobs or have work. They're not just sticking their feet up in the air and just trying to look out for some handout like it's always made to seem. And so I went through that yesterday. If we look at our conversation yesterday about who those people exactly are that are on SNAP. And so I think that people need to come together. Josh Hawley is saying the right thing, but hopefully he's saying this in conversation with Democrats as well, because there is a conversation that needs to be had. Like, you don't want people to run out of food because you guys can't figure it out. Congress has been largely looked at as ineffective for, let's say, like the last decade because of the lack of progress that they constantly have, no matter who's in charge. And I don't think that's a good thing for the American public. We lose the most in this situation.
I mean, I don't have a lot to say. Josh Hawley is a rhino, and I don't agree with him on anything, and he shouldn't even be a member of the Republican Party. He should try out the Democratic Party, given his policy priorities, which don't overlap with the GOP or even MAGA very much. Now, I agree with him that we should not have members of Congress being paid while the shutdown is going on. I don't even know that we should pay them at all. Getting salaries to the members of Congress is not a high priority of mine whatsoever. I would support any kind of cessation of their pay now, tomorrow, when the government's in session, when it's not in session. That all sounds good to me. I would look for savings there for sure. So that's fine. But he should get on board with the Republican priorities, which are to cut government spending, a reckless government spending, to find a way to have a society that is sustainable for the needy and who are not reliant. 40 million people reliant on welfare. We can't have that. That's not right. So we have different priorities, he and I.
Well, I want to correct. So first of all, I saw 1.2 million people of the SNAP recipients are veterans. I said 10 million earlier. Okay. So there are several. I mean, we look at that number as a whole.
Veterans are not. I don't like how people get, again, it's emotional manipulation.
It's not emotional. They fought for our country. I think that's important.
Entitle them to.
It doesn't entitle them, but if we make no pathway for them to come home from fighting for this country to live a stable life,
no one's making more of a pathway for them to come home than me, because I don't want to send them anywhere in the first place. What we should do for our veterans
President Trump
is not
in the verge of starting a war.
Intervene in foreign conflicts,
like we're doing with Venezuela.
Well, we're not sending troops.
Yeah, he said that might be the next step on land.
I oppose that utterly. I oppose that wholeheartedly.
So then is President Trump a rhino, as you're calling Josh Hawley, because he's going against the MAGA base right there?
He should listen to the MAGA base on what's going on in the Caribbean and with Venezuela, for sure. For sure, it's getting a little out of hand, and I have concerns. I've said that numerous times. I'm happy to criticize Trump when I disagree with him. Hawley, I disagree with literally everything he does.
So I'm just trying to understand, so the Republican thesis here is that they're holding the line. Why? Because Democrats are holding the line because they want to have a conversation about health care subsidies.
Democrats want to.
But let me finish. That they want to have a conversation about health care subsidies because the average American will not be able to afford those doubled or tripled premiums that are going to transpire if the Affordable Care Act subsidies do expire. And so that is something that we need to be considerate about, because these same people that are trying to build themselves out of a welfare population that are on SNAP, that usually go on to work and get out of that system, are going to then get the money to be able to afford health care for themselves and get out of a system like that. And now it's going to be the bulk of their salary.
We are trillions
yes,
of dollars
and the big,
in
beautiful
debt.
bill added money to that debt. And so therefore, if we want to cut, please don't start with the most vulnerable populations in our country, is all Democrats are asking. Please don't start here.
We're not starting with that. We're starting
yes, we
with
did.
The health care subsidies, we're getting rid of that.
Yes, so it's going to cost people to have health care in this country double or triple what they're paying this year alone. People can't afford that. So do you want people going to the emergency room frivolously, and then who pays for that?
I won't engage in emotional blackmail. People need to work and provide for themselves. It's not the government's job to provide for all of your needs at all times. It's the government's job to keep you safe from physical violence, to have some kind of court system. That is the government's purpose. Welfare and charity and all of those things is not a core function of government, and so I am happy to see it reduced.
The cost to keep SNAP going is little compared to the massive impact it will have to protect 40 million people.
You can say that
so
about
I think
everything.
Josh Hawley is
we
going
never
to the right track.
Then. Oh, the cost to this is
but
so small, the cost to that
why don't we cut the tax cuts that were in the big, beautiful bill? Cut those for a few years. Cut those for a few years. Don't make the tax cuts continue on.
Cutting tax cuts means taxing more. If you cut tax cuts, you're doing more
taxing.
You can leave I don't want to tax the American people more. We're taxed enough already.
I think you should be considering.
How much more of our income? This is the Zohran Mamdani plan. 52% of your income is owed to the government. What am I allowed to keep? The shirt off my back? What does not belong to the government? This is governance under socialism, where everything you make and everything you produce belongs to the government, and then it determines
it's not everything
how
you
much.
I don't think we should leave people in the dust like the million of veterans that come back and are on SNAP benefits. It's not trying to be emotional. I'm telling you for real that people actually consider the people in our country who may have fell on hard times, that are looking for SNAP benefits to get them out of those hard times, not to mooch off of the system. And if they stop painting the picture like that, people will understand that the American dream can't be achieved unless we provide an equal playing field for people like veterans, people that are disabled, people that are trying their best to get out of these situations. That's what America is known for. We have this moral obligation to our people.
By this. People can have a religious obligation or a family obligation or community obligation. That's not government. That's not government's job, because it's not. That's coercive.
Okay, we're going to disagree.
We have to be serious-minded and not, feigning and crying and, oh, it's so sad for them. Look, you got to help yourselves at some point, is my view. Next up, a recent poll conducted for the 2026 New York gubernatorial race yielded surprising results. We'll break it down after this. A surprising new poll from the Manhattan Institute shows that Congresswoman Elise Stefanik leads Governor Kathy Hochul in the 2026 New York gubernatorial race.
The conservative think tank's findings show Stefanik with a slight advantage in the race after being down 14 points in an August Siena College poll a couple months ago. Stefanik has 43% support compared to Hochul's 42%. Now, this is technically a statistical tie.
Bernadette Breslin, a campaign spokesperson for Stefanik, said in a statement, quote, New Yorkers of all political parties are hungry for new common-sense leadership after decades of Hochul's failed single-party Democratic rule. Elise Stefanik and the people of New York can and will win this righteous fight to save New York.
A Hochul spokesperson responded with a statement of their own, telling The Hill, quote, "You've got to hand it to sellout Stefanik. When her own polls don't reflect reality, she can count on Trump and his mega donors like Betsy DeVos and Paul Singer to repeat her lies. Unfortunately for her, New Yorkers aren't interested in letting an unhinged Trump enabler anywhere near the governor's mansion."
The poll surveyed 600 likely New York City voters and 300 registered voters across the state. Accounting for population by reweighting, it has a margin of error of plus or minus 3.3 percentage points and was conducted from October 22nd to 26th.
Now, while things may seem promising for Republicans on the state level, Democrat Zohran Mamdani is trouncing through his competitors in multiple polls for the New York City mayoral race. A final Emerson College picks 11 in The Hill survey has Mamdani at 50% support, with Cuomo trailing behind with 25% support. This poll was conducted from October 25th through 27th, with the overall sample size at 640 people, including likely voters and voters who already voted. The margin of error is plus 3.8 percentage points.
Yeah, it would have to be the biggest polling error in polling history for Mamdani to lose. So that's not going to happen. The poll showing Stefanik closing in on Hochul is interesting. On the whole state level, there are Republicans in New York. It's more moderate than New York City, so this is not the most surprising result to me ever. I don't think Hochul's been doing a great job, and Republicans would love to win that race. Stefanik is a really well liked and well respected kind of conservative MAGA warrior who really impressed people during the hearings with the presidents of various universities grappling with charges of anti-Semitism on their campuses. So she's a fighter, and Republicans would be happy to see her win that, but it's an uphill race because it is a Democratic state.
Yeah, I think the biggest point in that read-in was that this was done a poll between Stefanik and Hochul by a conservative think tank. So, people are like, okay, we'll take it with a grain of salt. We're also really far from the governor's race, but
they do very rigorous work at Manhattan. It's not like a Trump sycophantic organization.
I'd like to see an independent poll come out, but we'll see some, I'm sure, in the next few months. If it is to believe to be true, it's not that alarming of like we said, the percentage points are so close that that still would be considered a tie. But let's just say Stefanik does gain traction, then I would just feel like New York is a little confused. I know the state is different than New York City, but with Mamdani being so far on the left and then moving to the first Republican governor in 2 decades, I believe, that would seem like a dramatic twist of events, especially when you have Buffalo and Rochester, other places in New York that are super liberal places. I think it's important to note, to give credit to Republicans, they've made some inroads in the last election. I mean, Kamala, I think, only won New York by 56% of the vote, which is the lowest we've seen in decades. And so, there is some possible situation there. Maybe it's the remnants of that. But we'll see what happens. I just don't see New York turning red anytime soon, as much as I see Texas turning blue. So I guess we'll just see what happens and follow this as it comes along. Next on Rising, Trump has fired all 6 members of the Commission of Fine Arts as he forges ahead with the construction of his $300 million ballroom. Stick around for my lens.
Welcome back to Rising. Lindsey, what's in your lens today?
We are talking about your favorite ballroom.
Okay.
This week, the Trump White House now fired all 6 members of the Commission of Fine Arts, a federal agency that's quietly shaped the way America's Capitol looks and feels for more than a century. These commissioners were supposed to serve through 2028, and they were the people expected to review the President Trump's new projects, including a $300 million White House ballroom and a triumphal arch near the Arlington National Cemetery. Now they're gone. In an email reviewed by the Washington Post, the White House made it plain, saying, quote, "On behalf of President Donald J. Trump, I am writing to inform you that your position as a member of the Commission of Fine Arts is terminated, effective immediately." A White House official later confirmed the move, saying, quote, "We are preparing to appoint a new slate of members to the commission that are more aligned with President Trump's America First policies." Translation, Trump doesn't just want to design buildings, he wants to design the people who approve them. The Commission of Fine Arts isn't political by nature. It's the body that weighs on monuments, memorials, and historic buildings, from the Lincoln Memorial to the National Mall. It's been an independent voice since 1910, advising presidents, not serving them, until now. Trump's team has already torn down the White House East Wing to make room for the ballroom before any formal review could even take place. One fired commissioner named Bruce Becker said his group would, quote, look forward to a full review of the plans for the new structure that will replace the East Wing. Well, now he's been terminated. If this feels familiar, it's because it is. President Biden also fired Trump appointees from the same commission in 2021, and critics accused him of politicizing the arts. But here's the big difference. Biden was not preparing to build a ballroom with his name all over it. Trump's firing spree also extends to another key body, the National Capital Planning Commission, where his allies now hold the majority. That board will likely decide whether the ballroom gets approved. In other words, Trump now controls the referees and the field. Now, this isn't just about art or architecture. It's about legacy and who gets to define it. When you control how Washington looks, you shape how history remembers you. And that's the real story here. The man who once promised to, quote, drain the swamp is now redesigning it in marble, gold, and his own reflection.
Well, I'm glad you pointed out what I was going to point out, which is that Trump fired the members of this commission because Biden had fired Trump's members of the commission, and so now Trump fired Biden's members. So there's nothing unprecedented about this whatsoever.
If Trump wanted to come in and fire them first thing, do it 9 months ago. But to announce the ballroom and do it while the first person just vocally said, oh, we look forward to reviewing these plans, that looks like you're retaliating, like, oh, wait, I can do this too. Biden did it. Biden let them go, but didn't have constructual or architectural plans happening within the same week, happening simultaneously as firing people. You see how this is much more petty? Like, I also would criticize Biden in that moment of firing people that are supposed to be an independent commission that are working on a board that have done so since 1910. The bigger problem for me is that you're literally in building phase and you're hiring people that are just going to say yes. So imagine that something's supposed to be independent and then you hire your friends to be like, oh yes, beautiful designs, we love it, move forward.
But it wasn't independent in the first place.
Because Biden hired them?
Yeah.
Do you think the Supreme Court's independent? And Trump nominates people? Or, like, that's what I'm saying. People can be independent. They're literally looking at architecture, have some experience in it, I'm assuming, and say, oh, this looks nice, this looks gracious, not a huge sore spot on the White House, and looking at architectural designs. I don't think these people were meant to just harass President Trump because of pure look. I think they were going to ask what actually matches with the aesthetic. They were going to look at some overall things that make sense and say, oh, does this align with the history of our country and how this body's been governing since 1910?
Trump said, no thanks.
Yeah, it's not right. He said that's like a baby brat. Come on, that's a baby brat.
I think it's fine. I don't think I could get worked up about this if my life depended on it.
There are transparency concerns. People do care. They want to know what's going on in there. Like, President Trump is calling for this ballroom, and we could bring the conversation right back to where you love it since you don't care about this.
I know Democrats
Millions of Americans are about to lose their benefits on Saturday and won't be able to eat dinner, and President Trump called his richest friends to give him $300 million so he can dance and prance around in the White House, and it seems tone deaf. Let's talk about that part of it then, since you don't want to talk about the actual fact that the man's hiring his friends to say, yes, beautiful design, and not something that we've done. Somebody send anybody in here to give me an argument.
It's not taxpayer dollars are not being.
It's not about taxpayer dollars. I said the optics of it look insensitive. He's the president. He should care. That's my point. He should care about the timing. He should care about what's appropriate. He done draped the entire Oval Office in gold.
Does it look insensitive to foreign dignitaries when their staff, the people they come, have to use porta potties and have to stand on the grass during dinners?
We're talking about deluxe porta potties, okay? The White House parties were not too shabby.
I would like to build up the. I'm sure they're very nice. They're very nice. But we're building up.
We're not talking about these parties looking terrible. They were very nice parties. You've seen pictures.
They're going to be even nicer because we're going to have a nice.
But the moment didn't call for it right
ballroom.
now. The moment didn't call for it.
I don't know. Trump disagrees, and he won the election, and it's his White House right now, and he thinks the moment calls for a nice ballroom, and that's what I agree.
The people that voted him into office agree that the moment called for their economic life to feel more comfortable. And the moment shows us from the poll that I rereferenced a few minutes ago, the YouGov economist poll, is that 57% of the country
says, I voted for Trump,
uncomfortable.
but I can't fathom the First Lady's office being renovated so that it's now a ballroom for visiting foreign dignitaries.
Yes, he can care about his constituents that he told he was going to make their lives better, easier, bring inflation way down, make the economy way more stabilized, and people are still uncomfortable. If more than half of the country is saying they're not in a financially great place, and they're looking at Trump and the economy specifically and saying he's not doing a great job in 9 months, but he's spending millions, hundreds of millions with his rich friends and prancing around.
It has
I don't
nothing
get
to
it.
do with the state of the economy or
No,
what the
people are
policies
looking at how out of touch the president is.
This is not out of touch. This is about foreign policy.
He campaigned on being a person for the people.
Big.
He relates to everybody. He's the man of attack. He relates to people of police brutality and people who are constantly under scrutiny. He's the person that's outside of the government. He is not relatable. This just goes to show you that that was all a sham. It's completely unrelatable to be worried about a fancy ballroom when America is struggling. That's my point that I'm making. And you can't see that the timing is a little off. He has 3 more years in office.
Multiple things at once a little bit. We can be simultaneously ordering construction on a new room for the White House and also working on a couple other projects. Like this is not just the only thing. It's not all of the Trump agenda is on pause while a ballroom is being built, and no one cares. The only people who care about this are mainstream media, liberal Democrats, hair on fire, Elizabeth Warren types. Everyone else is fine with it. It's fine. Calm down. It's fine. It's fine.
He can't.
It's fine.
You're right. He can do two things at once, but the problem is that he's not
fine.
doing two things at once.
Fine.
He is not making the economy more easy to maneuver for the American public. He is putting tariffs forward that are making it harder to afford things as we hit Christmas and Thanksgiving, when people would like to buy gifts and spend time with their family leisurely, spend leisurely funds. He's not making it. He's not doing two things at once. He put the big, beautiful bill forward, which raises our debt, and supported that. He is not doing two things at once. So name the second thing that he's doing, aside from spending hundreds of millions of dollars. He is not keeping us out of wars that cost us money.
Hundreds of millions of dollars. It's not taxpayer
It's his friend's money.
Well, that's
but I'm
fine.
saying
it's their right to spend money.
But what is he doing at once?
I know this is confusing to Democrats, but you can spend your money however you want.
What's the second thing that he's doing?
You can't spend the public's money however you want.
You said he can do two things at once.
That's the key difference that Democrats don't understand.
What's the second thing that he's doing to bring prices down for the American public? Because you said he can address that issue, but then he can also spend his own money. So how is he addressing the issue so it won't make him look tone deaf to the American public? Name one way that he's addressing that issue for the economy.
Well, he went and got meat from Argentina.
And all of the ranchers, and let me get that word right, not farmers, ranchers are upset. Well, okay? The Ranchers Association spoke up and said, please don't do this to the people that voted for you. So tell me again.
Right, but we're not going to be stopped by the pedestrian concerns of one little constituency. We are going to lower prices for everyone.
The pedestrian concerns are widespread. There are pedestrian concerns from people that own small businesses that they can't hire immigrants anymore because of his immigration policies. There are pedestrian concerns about the soybeans in China and what he's doing with tariffs over there.
Deporting illegal immigrants
there
is
are
the strongest issue,
concerns across. I know, but he's killing the economy with his policy. So tell me the two things that he's doing at once. While he spends $300 million, what is he doing to make it more easy to live of his own dollars, let's say, or his friends' dollars? What's he doing to make everyday life easier and more affordable for the Americans, like he promised on the campaign trail? He is the deal maker, the great negotiator, and the businessman who understands how to make life more affordable for you. How is he doing that? I've named several ways that he's not, and I just want to clarify the two things that he's doing at once.
I'm too exhausted to continue. Let's wrap there.
Coming up, the U.S. has stuck yet another alleged drug-carrying vote, and a Democratic congressman's comments about it are raising eyebrows. Stay with us. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth confirming Wednesday in a post to X that military has carried out yet another boat strike that he claims was engaged in narco trafficking, this time in the Pacific.
It marks the 14th vessel that has been destroyed by the military since the beginning of September. 4 people killed in that strike, bringing the total number of deaths to more than 60. Hegseth wrote in that post, quote, "This vessel, like all the others, was known by our intelligence to be involved in illicit narcotics smuggling, was transiting along a known narco-trafficking route and carrying narcotics." He continued, "The Western Hemisphere is no longer a safe haven for narco-terrorists bringing drugs to our shores to poison Americans. The Department of War will continue to hunt them down and eliminate them wherever they operate."
Now, this comes the same day as the Trump administration reportedly briefed more than a dozen senators on the recent strikes. But Senator Mark Warner says Democrats weren't even invited to that briefing. He told an ABC reporter in a statement, quote, "Shutting Democrats out of a briefing on U.S. military strikes and withholding the legal justification for those strikes from half of the Senate is indefensible and dangerous. Decisions about the use of American military force are not campaign strategy sessions, and they are not private property of one political party. Meantime, more Republicans on the Hill are starting to push back against the administration's narco-trafficking campaign that has not yet been approved from Congress.
Ohio Representative Mike Turner, who serves on the House Armed Services Committee, expressed some frustration with how little information Congress is getting from the White House. Take a look.
I don't think anybody has openly and publicly stated a full support of what the administration is doing, because no one has full presentation yet from the administration
of what they're
doing to support it. I think what
By the
people
way,
have
can I just
said,
say that's a pretty scary thing for you to say,
right.
considering that you're on that committee.
Right. And I do think that there are serious concerns as to both the legal construct as to what the administration is doing, and there needs to be more information that's provided to Congress.
But Republican Senator Lindsey Graham yesterday suggested that Americans are largely supportive of the strikes, that the president may not need congressional approval after all.
I think most Americans feel very good about the idea that we're punishing drug cartels that are flooding the country with poisonous drugs. The president has all the authority in the world, and if you want to fight over this, let's fight over it. I think most Americans are going to be with Trump.
Now, Connecticut Democrat Representative Jim Himes hit back on the idea hard later last night, offering a hypothetical that took some off guard.
Lindsey Graham and other Republicans want to go the route of saying it's okay to kill people illegally, just so long as the American public supports it. The American public needs to really think that through. You know, there will be a Democratic president someday, and all my MAGA friends who are, cheering on these illegal killings need to imagine who gets killed when President Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez says that it doesn't matter what the law says, she's going to do what she's going to do.
Yeah, if it's so popular, then just vote for it. I don't. That's fine. It might very well be the case that a vast majority of Americans do support us blowing up these boats. Then just vote for it. Then you should feel encouraged to hold that vote. So I don't get what Lindsey Graham is saying. It was nice to see Representative Turner expressing some apprehension. Again, he's not saying we want to derail these efforts, legitimate efforts to take down drug smugglers. That might be a completely legitimate action, but the administration, the White House, the War Department need to explain to lawmakers what they're doing, and then lawmakers need to vote to approve it. It's that simple. Just do the vote. Just do it the proper way, and then we won't get into this argument and present the evidence to the lawmakers that, well, this is the strategy and this is the plan and this is why it's important. Just do that.
I talked about this a lot in my lens yesterday, and I think that this is not about a war on drugs for me. It's about what are the rules of war and do they apply? Mm-hmm. I think that we have to include Congress in this because for years, law enforcement has handled situations like this. For years, we've called these counter-narcotics missions and treated them as such. And just recently, the president in the last few months has decided to categorize them as counterterrorism missions. And that gives him kind of the bandwidth to just decide that he's striking boats. And the alarming thing when I was reading the New York Times report about what some of these issues are that people are bringing up about who's on these boats was someone that I talked about yesterday. A family of a man from Trinidad and Tobago was like, wait, my son was a fisherman that was in Venezuela and was killed on a boat. Right, but that's one example. Yeah. And so if we do kill a civilian and even make that mistake, then we have murder on our hands as Americans because the president said so, without Congress going to war or without us agreeing that we are in a war with Venezuela and with drug smugglers. And I think that's a key part of what our Constitution asks us to do is to move forward and allow Congress to be that decision maker in these things, in any type of war. And I think once we talk about land, I mean, the president has already toyed with the idea of taking this to land. And if he does, that certainly cannot be just considered anything more than an act of war. I mean, anything less than an act of war. We need to talk to Congress about that. So I think skipping that step is, like you said, problematic. No one has an issue with going to war with people bringing drugs in this country. I'm well aware, as somebody who grew up in Long Island, how deeply drugs do affect, because that's a place where we're greatly affected in our Long Island school district. Maybe it's everywhere, but I remember how rampant it was even when I was starting to graduate, about how much opioids and different drugs can start to affect people. I don't think that's something that's not a noble cause to go after. I think there's a certain way that we have done things for years, and I don't think the president should shy away from that because he has a different idea. That's why we have branches of government, and that's constantly a theme that I bring up, is that he tends to want to skip some steps in order to get things done quickly, but I'd rather get them done right and not kill any civilians in the process.
Yeah, I agree. And if we're considering sending in ground troops. I mean, how could you do that without having a vote? And also, how could you expect that that would enjoy majority support of the American people? You, an administration, a party, a movement that said no new wars,
right,
end the foreign interventions. Now, Lindsey Graham is not really someone of that ideology. He is a neocon. He is someone who wants war with Iran and supported Iraq and has been a leading intellectual. This was his initial opposition to Trump, was opposition based on Trump's foreign policy being very different from Lindsey Graham. Lindsey Graham and Rand Paul used to fight all the time about this kind of thing. So Lindsey Graham always thinks war is, or he wants war. He doesn't care whether it's popular or not. Now, it might be popular to blow up drug smugglers or alleged drug smugglers, but again, we should be
crystal clear that that's what they're
doing.
Who
they actually are. An invasion to do regime change in Venezuela, how is that consistent with the America First MAGA ethos? That's what I would want to know. Now, I'm happy, I've said it many times, if the Venezuelan regime is toppled from within by Venezuelans, that would be great, because Maduro is a brutal socialist dictator. He should resign, he should flee, he should go into hiding in China or Russia or North Korea or somewhere. That would be great. Our Nobel Prize winner should assume the leadership of that country. That would be great. It is not our job to manufacture that outcome. It's not our job, the U.S., to manufacture that outcome, barring a vote from Congress to do so. And that's just very important to remember. And the American people are not going to want to send ground troops into Venezuela.
Yeah,
it's not. Obviously, that's not going to enjoy support.
Also, I was reading there's a lot of Latin American countries that were against what President Trump is doing. And so you want to have...
Well, yeah, there are a lot that are for it, too, though. That cuts both ways.
But also you have to be mindful that...
They're like, please kill more of our drug smugglers. Please blow up more ships. That's what the government of Trinidad and Tobago
So then let's
says.
move over to Mexico then. So they had to be responsible for this latest bust or this latest killing. They had to go pick up the one lone survivor. We don't know what happened to that survivor, whether they're in Mexican prison or not. But Claudia Sheinbaum, the president in Mexico, was like, listen, this is not how we handle diplomacy with the U.S. And so we're going to have an internal investigation on how to handle this. And so we're ruffling the feathers with somebody who's also our ally, a president that we work closely with. And they're like, listen, just let us know what the plan is. I think the same thing that we heard from Democrats and Republicans that are in the U.S. that want to know what's going on, so do other nations that are going to be involved in this and helping in any way by like trying to figure out or arrest or save any survivors. 57 people have already been killed. And so unless all 57 of them were certainly guaranteed drug smugglers, we have now committed a few murders. Yeah, and so we have to make sure
maybe they are all drug smugglers. I would just like to know more, as would the congressional.
There's no reason for no transparency. I think everyone in America is on board, just like getting criminal migrants out of the country. People are on board for getting criminal drug smugglers away from our borders. So,
coming up, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez had a heated exchange with Riley Gaines, conservative activist, online yesterday. We'll be right back to discuss that. Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and conservative activist Riley Gaines were feuding on X this week.
It all started when Gaines posted a picture of Ocasio-Cortez at a rally alongside Bernie Sanders and Zohran Mamdani. Gaines wrote in her caption, quote, "We're being destroyed from within." Then Ocasio-Cortez responded, quote, "Maybe if you channeled all this anger into swimming faster, you wouldn't have come in fifth." This is in reference to Gaines tying in fifth place in the 200-yard freestyle race at the 2022 NCAA Swimming Championships with transgender swimmer Leah Thomas. It's always hilarious when they think they've landed a gotcha by pointing out I was the fifth fastest woman in the nation. Yet they conveniently forget the mediocre man who ranked 462nd in the men's division. LOL, misogynistic dunce. Gaines went on Laura Ingram's Fox News show and challenged Ocasio-Cortez to debate, to which the Congresswoman responded, "And I would like to challenge this person to get a real job."
Gaines said that was ironic, considering the Democrats voted to shut down the government and AOC was basically jobless at the moment. That back and forth seemed to end when Gaines responded, quote, "I have a real job. I'm a mom. It's the most important and rewarding job in the world. I think if you had a baby girl like I do, you'd understand my positions a little bit better." Yeah, I mean, AOC started that one.
What?
By
No.
escalating, by saying she's...
Get a job?
No, by saying swim faster. Well, doesn't matter how fast she's going to swim when she has to swim against biological men.
Okay, stop. She put Riley Gaines literally put up a tweet out of the blue with a picture of AOC, Bernie Sanders, and Mamdani.
Yeah, we're being destroyed from within.
Yes.
The socialist policies of those three.
So that she didn't write all that. She said we're being destroyed from within. Whatever she said. So AOC is not allowed to respond. So and then she's gonna get sensitive. I'm a mom, but the minute you bring in I'm a mom, now you're emotionally blackmailing people. Like, oh, I should be considered too. She was not talking about. Now she's like, I'm a mom. That's like, get the violin out.
Female athletes. It's very simple.
All right. So AOC is not a mom. So what does that mean?
Female swimmers have to swim against biological men.
Excuse me?
This is what Riley Gaines' issue is and where this comes from.
Yes, but why is she getting mad at? Why is she talking about AOC's policies in regard to what she's doing with Mamdani?
Answer the question. Should female athletes?
No, I don't think that they should.
Okay, great.
That doesn't mean I like Riley Gaines. I think she's a baby brat. She went on X, posted this, started with AOC, and now she's like, I'm a mom. Don't bother me. It's like, stop. When you bring in I'm a mom, I can speak to this. As soon as I tell somebody I'm a mom, I'm trying to make them feel bad for ever speaking to me. Because now I'm guilting them, precisely if they don't have kids, to make them show me the empathy and capacity.
But AOC tried to drag her for not swimming
She still came, even if she came in fourth, let's cancel out the transgender swimmer. She still didn't come in first. Shut your mouth. Worry about your profession over there.
Shut your mouth until you're the fastest.
People tell LeBron to shut up and dribble.
LeBron,
and I don't like that. Okay, so then.
No, I'll tell LeBron
Riley
to shut up any day of the week.
Riley
Gaines,
he's
a communist.
So
Chinese
Riley Gaines
sycophant.
should also shut up and then go learn how to be first place in the world, in the country,
LeBron
whatever. She can work on her craft more. Yes, she can. Okay, that's a fair argument. If somebody's coming at me, like Cardi B says, I'm going under the ground. Everybody don't know how to be like Michelle Obama and go to heaven. Okay, somebody comes at you and now you gotta, now I gotta say, nothing.
I'm not clutching my pearls.
Yeah, like come on, I don't have to AOC doesn't have to say nothing.
But what she fired back at was a dig at Riley's issue, which is that biological men should not be competing.
The transgender swimmer didn't come in first.
I would love to AOC. I would love to put that question to AOC. She supports
number 1, 2, and 3. They're not complaining. They beat out the transgender swimmer and they beat out Riley Gaines.
They decided not to, make this their life's mission.
But they also won. Winners don't run around whining and create podcasts about it. Winners continue on their craft.
This is like an 80-20 issue, but it
Which
matters.
I just said yes. I just said to you, I don't think that transgender women should compete.
Well,
against.
AOC should say that.
I'm not AOC. I'm just telling you, I don't think whining people on social media should get mad when people come back at them when they start with people equally. Those stances are firm on both sides.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm saying. Riley Gaines is like, oh, woe is me.
Yeah, I mean,
and
this
she's
was
clutching
very
her pearls.
female-coded sniping at each other, to be perfectly honest.
Now it's beneath Robby. He doesn't really bother with the girliness of it all.
It was a little girly.
Well, if I tell I'm just speaking as a mom. Once I bring into you, I'm a mom. Now I'm really trying to go for the jugular to make the whole audience feel that as a mom, you should not have said what you just said. And to me, that is using emotional blackmail. Out of all the emotional blackmails, that's the top one.
Well, they're playing our exit music. So that does it for us today on Rising Live. Thanks so much for watching. Look out for more exclusive YouTube content coming your way later today. And be sure to like, share, and subscribe to the Hills YouTube channel so you never miss any content. And for those of you who like to listen while on the go, we're now available anywhere you listen to podcasts. See you later.